What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and I wanted to talk about financial independence and what has a bigger impact, the cutting your lifestyle or increasing your earnings. But before we do that, make sure you press that subscribe button. It's that red button just like this, and there's a little bell notification. You just press that jingle bell just like it's Christmas, and then YouTube will be Santa Claus every day. When I post a new video, you get notified. You like that, don't you? Thumbs up for that. In the financial independence or FI community, or the FIRE community, which is the financial independence retire early, a tremendous amount of emphasis is put on cutting back on the amount of lifestyle or money that is spent. And it's good. Like, I'm not saying that's not a super valuable thing to do, but I do think that there's a lack of understanding or emphasis on increasing earnings. So controlling spending is definitely important, but I think increasing earnings is tremendously important, and they not just increasing the dollar amount of earnings, but I think what comes along with that is just left out of everybody's calculation is the ROI of taking action, the ROI of increasing one's self-confidence through earning more. There's a belief I see within a lot of people that they have a hard time making additional money above and beyond what they make in their salary. And this is the story that a lot of people tell themselves. And then they wonder why they can't make more money. So when they go through and actually put in the work consistently to do that, they build self-confidence. And that has a huge ROI, because that has a spillover effect into other facets of people's lives. So that is tremendously important. All of those pieces. Plus the actual ROI of just taking action and putting in work every day. You want to make an extra $10,000 this year? Easy. I can tell you exactly what to do. Go get another fucking job. It's just what it is. Takes work to make more money. Period. You want to do something passive? Okay. Still takes work. You got to put in the fucking work to create that, or you need to have money. Right? You got to put in the fucking work, or you got to have money to have something that's a little bit more passive. And it's not passive as in like nothing. It's just less time consuming than a job is. So anyways, tangent. There should be music playing right there, right? So I have a couple scenarios here. There's three basic scenarios plus the base case. And then within two of those, I have the before tax and the after tax. So if we were to, say, cut our spending by 10% and put it into an after-tax something and just taxable account, versus if we were to cut our spending and put the delta between what we were at and what we're at now into a tax-deferred vehicle, like off the top, like a 401k, or if we were just to earn 10% more, same scenario, we just have extra take-home, right? And we just put that into a taxable account, or we get the earn 10% more and we put it into our 401k or traditional or something like that, IRA. This is for obviously more specific for US. Or what about a combination of both? What if you cut spending by 5% and you increase earnings by 5%, right? And which one of these is best? And then to figure out which one is best, I take the total spending per year and I multiply that times 25 based on the 4% rule of thumb, to get the amount of money that's needed in retirement, right? Because that's one of the things that people talk about when you cut spending, right? Is you cut spending, and that has a twofold effect, right? It cuts the amount you need, but then it also, on a daily basis, right? Because then you have more to invest in everything. But then it also has a double effect, because then you need less in retirement, right? So I factored that in here for, it's called the retirement here number, and it's just the annual spending times 25, right? And based on the Trinity study, that they have the safe withdrawal rate. You can look up the Trinity study or just Google the 4% rule of thumb and do some reading around that, or watch a couple of videos on that to get more context of what that means. So I want to show you this, and then I calculate it so that it spits out the age, meaning when somebody could actually retire. So if we have a savings rate of 5%, remember, because I use 5% because, as I mentioned, a lot of people don't save 70% of what they make on a monthly basis. I think for the month of March, and probably, and very good chance for the month of April, I'll be over 70% savings rate for how much money I make versus how much money I save, which is a blessing. Okay, so now let's look at this. Okay, so we'll start here and I'll go back and forth. So we have the salary. This is the standard scenario. We have the salary, and then we have the taxes at about 25%. But remember, this is pre-tax dollars, so this is actually only going to be taxed on $57,000. That would be the take home, and this is what we're total spending. The total amount needed in retirement is $1.07 million roughly. And based on a 7% rate of return, or 8% rate of return, it would take us about 43 years to get to a retirement. And that is assuming that there's no initial nest egg, and that the net worth of this individual, hypothetically, is zero, right? It's not negative, it's not positive, it's just zero. And I did not calculate the increases somebody's salary will come with over time. We'll just say that that is 3%, but also inflation is 3%, so that we can call it a nominal amount. Now, the next scenario we're going to take a look at is before taxes, meaning it's taken off the top, versus for the earnings, right? And then also we're going to look at 10% taken off the top for spending, which means that I took the total $42,750 that we spend, right, in the initial example, minus 10%. That extra 10% we save in there is going to go towards lowering our gross income, so it also affects our taxes. And I will show you that right here. So we have spend less 10%. So we have, if again, $60,000. The taxes are less, and the taxes are less because this is what we were spending here, total spending. Now we're going to spend 10% less than that. The delta between this number and this number decreases our total taxes. So our tax bill, our tax liability at the end of the year is less. And this is the total amount that is take home. That's now the savings increased, right? Because we went from the $3,000 to now we're up to $8,000. And that's absolutely amazing, right? Because you get a huge bump in there. So if you look down here at the bottom right hand corner, the retirement, you can retire in 29 years, meaning this is also adjusted, right? There's about $100,000 difference between these two. Savings rate is the same. We're just saving the 3% plus any changes, right? Savings rate's going to stay the same, the 5% of the total, plus any of the savings we get from the delta between these two things and the tax savings. So that is 29 years it takes to retirement. Now, if we move over here, we have the same thing, but now we're going to say we earn 10% more. So that extra $6,000 is going to go straight into savings. So now we're saving the base $3,000 plus the extra we earn, $6,000 from right here. the taxes. So this is all going in beforehand. So it's 66,000 minus 9,000, because say we're putting into our 401k or something. We're still spending the same, so we didn't actually have to cut back on our lifestyle at all. As you can see, no lifestyle change. We actually have a greater standard of living in this case here than in this case. So right here, this scenario, if you're just looking at this scenario trumps this scenario from the standpoint of greater lifestyle. However, the amount needed in retirement is also $100,000 more. But when we come down here, we see that it doesn't have any impact. Now, there is a slight impact from the standpoint that it is in the 29th year. So it's 29 year and maybe a couple months. So there's a slight difference in there depending on how it actually played out with the returns. But it's not... they're not off by that much. And as you can see, there's a bigger, I don't know if you notice that, but there is a bigger difference when you do after-tax dollars. So if they were pre-tax dollars, they're virtually the same. So when somebody tells you that the spending less has a greater impact, well, if you run the numbers, they're the same. They're off by a couple months. So if the spending less is off by several months, so then I guess technically they might be a couple months sooner, but that would all depends upon the returns that were earned. Now when we get into after-tax dollars, that's where it is better. So if we get into after-tax dollars, meaning we have $60,000 and we pay 25% in taxes, so we pay $15,000 in taxes. We take home $45,000, but we cut our spending by 10%. So now all of that goes to our savings. So in this example, we contribute about $2,000 less because of the taxes, and you can see that right here. You can see the tax savings in the actual savings rate amount, right? In this example, where we take it out in the beginning, it's $8,300. In this example, it's $6,500. So we're contributing less into our retirement or into our savings in this example. Now coming over here to where we're earning, we're doing the same thing, right? Slightly, it's a little bit more because obviously you're earning more. So 9,000 versus 6,000. So this is 2,250 here, and this is 2,100 something. So not a huge difference, but if you look at the age difference, there's a year difference, and that could be the semantics of how just the numbers play out. Let's take a look here. 33 versus 32. So it could be within less than 12 months apart, depending on what time they fall during the year. But it is just interesting to note that. Now, if we jumped up to spending, if we jump up to a higher, well, so let's actually take a look at the both scenario. So now we got a 5% increase in earnings, right? We're working part-time on the weekends or whatever, and that's like 4 hours on the weekend for the whole year. Like, it's not that much. So we earned $3,000 extra, so we're earning $63,000. And these are, we're putting it into a 401k or something. And the take home on this, or the amount that we contribute into our savings, is $8,100. So it's a little bit less than what it is if we just cut the savings, and it's a little bit less than if we put it into earnings. But we also spend a little bit less, right? Because we're spending 5% less overall. We're not going to get a 10% cut in our spending, but we're spending 5% less. So the total contribution is less than both of these examples. But when you look at and because of that, when you look at the age for retirement, it's age 30, where in both those other ones it's age 29. And remember, it could be like the tail end of the 29th year and the very beginning of the 30th year. So this doesn't make a tremendous amount of distance. Doesn't take a tremendous amount of difference in the timing on this thing. But you get to see if, let's go down here. If now, because we created it, I created the spreadsheet, we get to change any one of these things, right? So if we went through and just changed it from a 5% savings rate, everything else holding constant, that's if you, I think it's in Latin, if you want to hold everything else constant, there's a phrase that you say in Latin, and it's ceteris paribus. So holding everything else constant, if we took the savings rate from 5%, say if you don't go to 70%, say if you go to 50%, right? Then these numbers are tremendous. So assuming that you have a net worth of 0, right? And you go to a 50% savings rate, right? And you were to cut your spending from 22,500 down to 20,250, right? So that's some drastic changes. Well, obviously you have to be able to get down. Like this is not going to happen overnight. You know, there might be a transition period from going 5% to 50%. So you're not just be able to turn a switch and do it, but the numbers are astonishing. You go down to 9 years before you can retire, and that's at a 50% savings rate. If you went up to, say, where I'm at, right around to 70%, that's 5 years. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Now, if we go back down to the 5% and we go through, we'll do the same thing, right? So we're at 10%, we're earning more. So now let's jump both of the 10% to earn more up to 50%, earn 50% increase in earnings, and we're going to cut our expenses by 50%, right? So we were spending $42,700 a year. We're going to cut that down to $21,000. That's similar to what I'm spending. I'm spending around $24,000 a year. And we're going to leave the net in the other scenario here. We're leaving the earnings. We're increasing it by 50%. But we're not doing anything, we're keeping the total spending the same. So that increase of $30,000 is just going to go straight into our savings. And if you look at those numbers, when you get into a higher savings rate, or like basically that's essentially what it equates to, right? Because we started with a 5% savings, but if we spend 50% less of what we were spending, then in effect, that's another way of saying we're increasing our savings rate. So when you go up into those higher numbers, like a 50% increase in the amount that we save from the baseline, it goes down to 11 years. So these are just, I don't know, just some interesting ways of looking at some things. But what happens with if you earn 50% more, then it's a 15-year horizon. So when you start going really extreme, you are going to look at the cutting the spending being more impactful. But if you're just going to cut them by 10%, then they're going to be virtually the same in terms of the impact in the long run. If you cut them both by 5 or 10%, they're going to be about the same. Whereas if you, even probably like the 15 or 20%, let me check. So if we're cutting them each, we're doing a 20%, one's 22 years and change in terms of the number of months versus 23 years and change. So about a year difference. It's when you get into those, substantial ones where it's a 50% cut in your savings or 50% cut in your spending, so your savings rate increases, and versus a 50% increase in your ability to earn money, or in your actual how much money you earn, and that's because the amount you need in retirement gets cut in half, right? So 1.1 million versus 500,000, right? Like clearly it's going to take a lot. Even if you earn less money, it's going to take, you'll be able to get to $500,000 a lot quicker than you would be able to get to 1.1 million, even if you are earning 50% more. Anyways, if you guys have any questions about any of this, let me know down below in the comments. If anybody wants to see this spreadsheet or play around with it, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram and shoot me your email or something, and I just let me know what you're looking for, and I can send this over to them. Hope you guys have an awesome fucking week, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.